So you think you can just come in here and tell us what to do? Yeah, I'm the boss around here.
The Iron Cross Club gleamed under flickering bar lights, not because anyone cared, but because one man did. Every night, Frank swept up broken glass and cigarette ash in worn boots and a green cap, eyes never making contact. To the bikers, he was invisible, just background noise they'd step around or through. That changed when Dax, a muscle-bound recruit, cracked a joke about old men hiding behind brooms. Laughter followed, sharp and uneasy. Frank bent down, picked up a crushed patch from the floor, and gently placed it on the bar counter. "Don't forget what this stands for," he said quietly. The room fell silent. No one expected words from him. Dax scoffed. "What would you know, old man?" Frank looked up slowly. "I was there when it was stitched for the first time." Whispers started. The music stopped. Frank returned to sweeping, but the silence lingered like smoke after a gunshot. The next morning rumors spread. Boomer, one of the oldest members, cornered the younger guys. "You ever heard of Frankie Ridge?" he asked, squinting at Frank across the room. That was the name decades ago, before patches, when founders were sleeping in garages and fighting on the street. Frankie Ridge talked them out of tearing each other apart, said unity would ride farther than revenge. "Wait, that's him?" someone whispered. "Ridge disappeared after something bad happened," Boomer continued. "Word was he walked away." 3 bikes pulled up outside. Axel, known for breaking bones before breakfast, stepped in and looked around. "Where is he?" Frank turned slowly. Axel walked over, removed his gloves, extended his hand and said, "We've been waiting 30 years for you to speak." Frank hesitated, then shook it. "I wasn't sure it was time. It is now." That night, Frank didn't show for his usual shift. His absence felt louder than the rock music. Close to midnight, Boomer took the mic. "There are stories, and then there's Frankie Ridge. He didn't just clean our floors, he cleaned up our messes, the kind you don't talk about in daylight." Boomer's voice was steady. "You ever wonder why the founders never fought for leadership? Why gangs in our region never touched us after '94 because of him?" He pointed at the empty corner. "You," he turned to Dax, "disrespected a man who took 3 bullets for dispatch and never said a word about it." The front doors opened. Frank walked in with quiet strength that silenced the entire club. That night, the janitor took his seat beside legends. Axel slid a yellowed photo across the table. 5 young men standing before a garage, Frank in the center. "That was the day we buried the chains and picked up trust," Frank said softly. "I told them, if we ride angry, we die angry, but if we ride for each other, we live." Frank looked at Dax in the back. "Come here, son." The room tensed. Dax walked forward and sat. "Do you know why I never corrected you when you mocked me?" Frank asked. "Because once I was you, full of rage, wanting to fight everything I didn't understand. But anger makes you loud. Pain makes you dangerous. I don't need an apology. I need you to choose better." Axel lifted his glass. "To Frankie Ridge, the one who mopped our floors and once mopped up our blood." 3 days later, Frank didn't show up at all. Dax found himself pacing, Frank's words echoing. "Anger makes you loud. Pain makes you dangerous." Axel called the meeting. "He's not coming back as a janitor," he announced, pulling out a hand-stitched patch, the first one ever made. "This belonged to Ridge. He gave it up when he walked away." He handed it to Dax. "Deliver it. He'll know what it means." Dax found Frank at a weathered cabin shelling peanuts on the porch. "You come for answers or forgiveness?" Frank asked without looking up. "I came to bring this." Dax handed him the patch. Frank's fingers froze. "I never thought I'd see this again." "They said it's time." Frank studied the patch. This meant brotherhood. Not noise, not fists, just brotherhood. When we forgot that, people got hurt. I walked away not because I stopped caring, but because I cared too much to watch it rot. Frank looked up, meeting Dax's eyes. "You want to know what matters? Not the patch. It's whether your story earns the right to carry it." "I want to earn mine," Dax said quietly. The next morning, Frank dusted off a motorcycle he hadn't ridden in 20 years. They rode through winding hills to a dilapidated house. "Lived here once," Frank said, "before the fire, before the war inside the club. We forgot who we were. A brother died. I chose peace. Others chose pain." He looked at Dax. "You ride angry and you'll burn everything good around you. But you ride with purpose. And sometimes you build something no fire can touch." Back at the cabin, Frank showed Dax a photo of him and Nash. "He was my brother. Not blood, but deeper. Nash was the fire. I was the brakes. The night we split from the Sanborn Devils, he got reckless. I told him not to go. He went anyway. Only one came back." Frank pulled out a second patch. "This was supposed to be yours years ago. I won't give you this. You can earn it." When Frank returned to the Iron Cross, Axel waited with a crimson vest, the ceremonial one worn only once before. "We never gave this to anyone else because no one was it," Axel said. Frank turned to the crowd. "I don't want your respect for what I did. I want you to live what we stood for." He faced Dax. "Put it on, son. Let the story continue." As Dax placed the vest on Frank's shoulders, the room exploded, not with noise but with stillness. Every man stood, fists raised in silent reverence. From the back someone whispered, "Godfather." The club changed. Fights ended faster. Young recruits listened more. Old grudges dissolved. Dax took over cleanup duty, understands. Think that service wasn't weakness. Leadership was built on dignity, not dominance. One evening, Frank asked Dax, "Why do you still clean up after us?" "Because someone has to remind the proud what humility looks like," Dax replied. Frank smiled. Real leaders don't need chairs at the table. They build the table. Months later, they started Rise, a new division for second chances. Frank didn't lead it, Dax did. "I'm not ready," Dax protested. "That's how I know you are," Frank replied. They built Nash House on the foundation of the old place, a shelter, school and garage for the broken and lost. Years passed. Frank eventually passed peacefully, holding Nash's photo. The club didn't hold a funeral, they held a ride. Hundreds came from every coast. At the final overlook, Dax placed Frank's crimson vest on the cliff's edge. "He was just a janitor," Dax told the crowd, but one sentence from him changed everything. Some people leave behind money or buildings, but the ones who matter most leave behind men who write better, live better, choose better. Frank never asked to be called Godfather. He just lived like one, teaching a broken world that even a janitor with a mop can carry the soul of 1,000 riders. Greatness doesn't make noise, it just shows up.